erroneous. And there's so many prophecies. I could do a whole show about this thing alone, is that there are prophecies in Nostradamus and in others that indicate that Russia and America would not fight a thermonuclear war as cold warriors. They would become friends, Nostradamus said. They would be called Aquilon, which is the word he uses for the northern kings of the northern wind source. Aquila is the constellation in the autumn that is northernmost, as it would be seen by Roman augurs and prophets. So again, classical metaphors are being in play here. Now, that means a totem of two northern brothers or kings that use an eagle as their totem. Now, that's what I interpret it to mean. Now, the bald eagle of America was there during the Cold War, but the hammer and sickle was the Soviet Union's symbol. So when the Soviet Union fell in 1990 and 91, a few years later, the official totem of the new Russian Federation was a updated, revamped version of the Imperial Russian eagle. And it's a two-headed eagle. So now, that says to me, we are now in the time of the brothers of the North who were enemies, and now they are brothers. And in the prophecy, he talks about that. He dates that. He puts the quatrain as number 89, Century 2, number 89, I believe, is the volume. 89 is the, yes, it was 289, and that's February 1989 was the month that the Soviet Union left Afghanistan, its armies. Significant, because that precipitated the breakdown of the Soviet Union. Later in December that same year, George H.W. Bush, the president of the time, and Gorbachev, the premier of the Soviet Union, officially declared the Cold War over. And then subsequently, the Soviet Union broke up. The new Eagle King of the Federation of Russia appeared. And so we are now living in the time frame of these brothers who are not yet brothers in the riddle of Nostradamus, who are halved and divided by a barbari source. Barbari is the word that he uses for Barbary. Barbary corsairs were the contemporary terrorists of Nostradamus' day. They didn't hijack airplanes, they hijacked ships. And they raided the coastlines of Provence, where Nostradamus lived. So they were the Muslim terrorists of his day. He often uses the metaphors of what he knows to project into our future. The Barbari are modern Muslim terrorists, or misguided Islamofascist terrorists. And they are the source for the breakdown of this tentative friendship between the brothers of the North. And the problem is that Nostradamus gives us the timeline of a fast track and a long track to war between these two brothers, one which he calls Amarish for America, or Amorica for America. It happens in 3 years and 7 months in the short track. In the long track, 13 years. Now, up till the end of the Cold War, I have not seen anything that allows for a countdown to begin. This thing that happened in August, and this is what concerns me the most, this thing that happened in August with the invasion of Georgia, this thing that's been building between radar stations and missile systems in Eastern Europe that are threatening Russia, could be the beginning of the time to count down, which means that if this is correct, then the next president in 2012, early 2012, that's when the first countdown ends, and we have thermonuclear war with Russia in the first term of the next president, or it is delayed as 2021.
Let's hope it's 2021.
Or
longer.
Or longer, or never, but it is certainly, this is the warning, and again, I have to stress, this is something I've been yelling like a guy in the wilderness of prophecy interpretation for many years. Many prophets warn that the Third World War is a war that'll happen when people walk with their eyes wide open into the conflagration. They have this illusion that they're safe. It only takes a few minutes or a day maximum for all these. There are more missiles now potentially that could be pointed at Russia and America from the two former Cold Warriors states that existed during the Cuban Missile Crisis. were 10 times more missiles available than during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when we came so close to a Cold War turning hot. So we are under this illusion that these weapons are put away and everything's fine. And I actually very feel positive about what Obama said in his debate today, that he talks about the importance, the danger of nuclear arms still being held by both sides. And he has joined with Sam Nunn, the former senator, in a pursuit to help Russia and help the world disarm from nuclear weapons as soon as possible, because we are still under a Cold War threat that can be here tomorrow. And so hopefully we will open our eyes and actually see the thing that has to be changed. So it doesn't happen in the next president's term. It doesn't happen in 2021.
Jason in Pennsylvania.
Religious year, beginning with the total solar eclipse. 2 weeks later, a total lunar eclipse on Passover. And then a civil year, beginning with the solar eclipse, followed 2 weeks later by another total blood red moon on the Feast of Sukkot, all in 2015.
Well, now, if you think that this is a coincidence,
Right.
I want you to know that it's timed, you know? You can go into a computer astronomy program and go back in history and forward in history, and there are no more of these for the rest of the century.
That's right. It doesn't happen again. It does not happen again on the biblical holidays.
Now, there are 3 more solar eclipses that you need to know about. And one of them happens this year. Tell us about them.
Well, yeah, what's fascinating is, as Gary read, if these events happen, it says in Matthew and in Luke, at the end of the tribulation, and if that's 2015, you back off 7 years, that puts 2008 as a very critical year.
Yes.
And beginning this year, there's a total solar eclipse, only one. Next year, there's only one. And the next year, there's only one. But they all fall like a bullseye right on the 1st of Av, or the 29th of Tammuz. And for the Christians, many aren't aware of the significance of that date because we haven't been watching the biblical calendar. But the 17th of Tammuz is when they worshiped the golden calf.
Yes.
It's also when Nebuchadnezzar broke through the walls of Jerusalem.
Wow.
And by the way, it's also the same day the Lebanon War started 2 years ago. The missiles went through the northern border of Israel the same day Nebuchadnezzar broke through the walls.
Well, Mark, I have to just, this is exciting, folks. This is amazing. The thing that grabs me as you're talking about this is the very simple fact that Av is called the dark time in the Hebrew calendar.
Yes.
In fact, there is a period of 3 weeks during that time, referred to as the dark time. And you're saying that this eclipse falls at that period of time.
Not just any time during that period, but on Av the 1st.
Av the
The
1st.
first day of Av.
Wow.
That's when the Jews really get serious about lamenting the destruction of the temple. They don't bathe, they don't shave, they don't put on fresh, clean clothes. They take their shoes off, turn the chairs upside down, sit on an upturned chair. They want no comfort during those 9 days from the 1st to the 9th of Av.
That's right.
Wow.
The reason why, historically, it was on the 9th of Av that the 10 spies brought the bad report and didn't want the land. They despised it. Because of that, that day has been cursed in Jewish history. When Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple, it was on the 9th of Av.
Yeah.
And 600 years later, when Rome destroyed the temple, it was on the same day, the 9th of Av.
Yes.
All the Jews were kicked out of England in 1290 on the 9th of Av. All the Jews were kicked out of Spain in 1492 on the 9th of Av. World War I started on the 9th of Av. Hitler's proclamation to kill the Jews was on the 9th of Av. And they evacuated the Gaza Strip at sunset on the 9th of Av, the same day they rejected the land 3,500 years ago. And so it's known as the Dire Straits. And on the 1st of Tammuz, 1st of Av, is right in the middle of those dire straits. We have these solar eclipses 3 years in a row.
Wow. Tell us the significance in Jewish writings about what a solar eclipse stands for and what the lunar eclipse stands for.
Yes, and this is very fascinating. First off, Zechariah 8:19 is a very key verse because it mentions these 4 fast days. And in Jewish writings, blood red moon bodes bad for Israel. But a total solar eclipse means bad news for the nations. The Gentile nations. And in Zechariah 8:19, in the context of these fast days, God says he's going to turn these fasting days into days of great joy. In other words, the nations are going to be judged during that time. And so here, right in the middle, for the next 3 years, we see judgment coming upon the nations by having this total solar eclipse right in the midst.
Oh, wow. Now, please understand, there's coming a solar eclipse this summer on the 1st of Av.
July 31st, August 1st, right in there.
Okay? And then next year, there'll be another one on the 1st of Av. And the next year, another one on the 1st of Av. That sounds really significant because we're right in the middle of the dark time and we're going to have a dark sun. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
The sun's going to be eclipsed. So this is mind-blowing. This is really mind-blowing. Please understand that this is a sabbatical year. The next 7-year cycle begins this coming September 29th with the new moon of September, Rosh Hashanah, and will run for 7 years. Could this be Daniel's 70th week? It's possible. We can't tell you that it will be, but listen, if the world goes to war, then we'll know. We will know, right?
I think there's a good chance there will be a war this summer. To me, it's the whole insanity of dividing Jerusalem and dividing the land as well. If they try to divide Jerusalem and create a Palestinian state, to me, that is really going to be the trigger. And we need to be watching and know the church is commanded to watch.
Absolutely. And I want to say that we're watching. As a matter of fact, we're watching Hezbollah dug into the southern slopes of Lebanon with 40,000 rockets, JR.
Yes.
These are high-tech rockets that can reach all the way to southern Israel, and they promise in the very near future to eliminate Israel, to annihilate Israel. Now, we know that's not going to happen.
I read last week that the Israeli government is reissuing the gas masks because the possibility of chemical weapons being on the tips of these rockets.
That's right. In April, the gas masks were reissued.
And we're also watching our president say that he wants a Palestinian state by the end of this year.
Exactly.
Pressure is on Israel from several different directions.
This year.
Exactly.
Watching our president say that he wants a Palestinian state by the end of this year. Watching our president say that he wants a Palestinian state by the end of this year.
Exactly.